Our last guest, but not our least, is somebody that is very interesting. His name is Jack Oswald. Welcome to the show, Jack.
Hi.
How are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm really enjoying the sunshine and watching everything that grows just bursting with life. It's fantastic.
Isn't it fun?
It's a neat time of the year.
Yes.
And
It's so special. I think after all of this rain, I think more so than I've seen in years.
Yeah, you can almost watch the flowers grow.
Especially if you've been drinking a lot.
I haven't.
You haven't been?
I haven't.
Oh,
No.
okay, all
Not
right.
yet, anyway.
Jack, why don't you tell us what company are you with?
Yeah, the company is called ISOThrive, ISO, and like the word thrive. And we brought up a new product to market about 15 months ago, which is all about nourishing a very special subset of bacteria that lives in your digestive system that has been not getting the proper treatment for the most part for the last 100 years.
Okay.
and that sort of starvation, if you will, of this set of bacteria, it's certainly in the Western world and the Western diet is highly correlated with a number of chronic health conditions that they're starting to happen earlier and earlier with kids today, but also build and get worse over time as we become grow as adults.
So you're within your intestines, you're finding a lack of a certain enzyme for proper digestion?
It's actually, it's really an energy source. It's a special kind of carbohydrate that the human part of us can't digest, but the certain subset of bacteria has the ability to break that apart and use it as their energy source.
Okay, all right. And the product is called ISOThrive, and they sent me a box, and I wanted to have this conversation first before I got into it. But they are these little packages filled with a liquid, and you're supposed to, I read the instructions, and you start off slow, and then you work your way up to drinking a whole package and diluted in water, I'm assuming.
Yeah, and just so for those that are listening, it's about a quarter of a teaspoon, so it's not very much. And it turns out most people just tear the corner off and sip it right out of there.
You could just do it straight?
Yeah, and the drinking the water was more a public service announcement because a lot of people just don't get enough water in their day.
Oh, that's good.
Is it like a probiotic?
So probiotic would be bacteria, and this is in the category that unfortunately the terms are so similar they're confusing. It's actually technically called a prebiotic, so something that's food for probiotics. We actually use the term now microfood.
Microfood.
That seems to makes it really clear. Okay, you got macrofood for the human macro part of you, and you got microfood for the micro part of you.
Okay, all right. There were some questions that were sent to me, and I usually don't read off of them because I don't find them interesting, but these I did. It says, should you think twice before a juice cleanse? 5 signs your gut doesn't need to detox. Explain, please.
Yeah, so, often, people after the holidays, usually January, February, we see, these cleanse, sort of programs that people get on. Mm-hmm. And, when you look at what your body needs, the thing that we haven't really been spending enough time on is looking at what do our bacteria need. And it's sort of like, if you think of the hundreds of species of bacteria that live in your digestive system, they're like one big complex organ, just like your liver, your heart, your spleen. But since they're all different, they're not the same cell type. They all have different dietary needs, if you will. And so what we've been focusing on is how to make sure that what you're eating every day is going to feed everybody, in that community. Otherwise, it's like only feeding part of your liver, and then only part of your liver is going to work, and the rest isn't. So it's a really important concept to make sure that you're feeding all the bacteria, and they all need different sources. And so if you just go on a juice cleanse, you're actually consuming a lot of sugar. You're not actually necessarily getting the microfood that covers the whole gamut of what your bacterial populations need. And you might actually be causing yourself more harm than good, as opposed to just getting rid of the bad foods that you might have been eating, or you may be cutting back on alcohol once in a while, or whatever it is that you need personally to kind of get your system back in line.
Okay. So this bacteria or a bug, if you want to call it, that's in your gut, you're bringing it up to a level to where it actually will start benefiting you.
That's right. And what's interesting is that it's not that they begin to dominate. It's just that if you were to do, take a poop sample and send it off to the lab and have it analyzed today using DNA sequencing technology, we can identify all the various bacteria that live inside you. And what we see is that there's certain specific bugs that look like they don't exist before you start giving people ISOThrive. And then over the course of 2 to 4 weeks, as the populations build back, they're clearly identifiable. But they may only be a fraction of a percent. And what we're still learning is we know what some of the specific roles are, but it's such a complex ecosystem. The part that's still difficult to answer is what role do they play in the band, if you will?
Sure.
And how important is that? But it's pretty clear that there's a combination of their individual contributions and also the fact that they're now part of that bigger ecosystem playing a role.
Okay. Well, you've got 5 signs. Your gut's healthy. Number 1, you feel energetic. Number 2, you sleep well. You have clear skin. You have healthy stools. You have easy, regular eliminations. That's the same thing as having healthy stools, isn't it? Or no?
Yeah, but also on a regular basis.
Okay, all right. You're not constipated or anything like that.
Yeah, and that's So, and in fact, the things that we find that people benefit from. People who've had chronic constipation, or sometimes often called irritable bowel syndrome.
Sure.
They seem to get they get relief from that and become. A couple of people have sort of described that you could set the Swiss train schedule by my regularity.
Okay.
It's that predictable.
All right. Well, that's a good thing. You know what? Hang in there, Jack. We got to take our last break of the show, and then we will be back. We got a lot more to go with you. I'm Greg.
And I'm Marlene.
And you're listening to Flavors. Okay, we're back. I'm Greg.
And I'm Marlene.
And you're listening to Flavors with our guest, Jack Oswald. Last we spoke to Jack, he was talking about bowel movements.
Occupational hazard.
Well, I got a story, but I won't get into it right now. Okay, let's see here. Some questions. How does ISO Thrive help people with acid reflux? I get acid reflux, so how's this going to help me with my acid reflux?
Yeah, this is a fun story. So when we brought the product out originally, we were thinking we're going to have an impact at the tail end of the pipe, right?
Right.
in your digestive system. And we started hearing from customers about 2 or 3 months in regularly that I bought your product for my lower digestive issues. And by the way, it's working for that. But it also did this for me. And they ranged from basically no more symptoms of acid reflux, and they can't trigger it, to substantial improvements, right? So, and we're like, okay, there's something going on here that we didn't realize we were helping with. So we started collaborating with John Selling, who's one of the on Stanford Medical School, teaches there, and he's a gastrointestinal professional, and he practices on a regular basis. We started working together and realized that much like the same thing about 20, 30 years ago when they figured out that a bacterial infection in your stomach was the cause primarily cause of ulcers, that in this case it's also a bacterial imbalance problem, and that what's happening is you've got the wrong kind of bacteria dominating at the interface between your esophagus and your stomach, and they're able to basically almost anesthetize that muscle that's supposed to close and keep the acid in your stomach. And so that's what's keeping this chronic problem going on. Now, why would ISOThrive help? Well, it turns out that some of the bacteria that we were talking about earlier that really do well on our product and aren't being fed through other natural, your normal food sources, they have ability of outcompeting those bacteria and, in fact, even killing them off very specifically, so that when those populations go down, then of the bacteria you don't want, then they stop interfering with the muscle's function, and it can go back to working normally, so long as there hasn't been any permanent damage from the condition. So, fascinating scientific discovery. We have actually submitted a publication on this recently that's not out yet, but we're talking about the results that we found, and it's really quite remarkable. New understanding of the cause and continuation of this chronic condition that people suffer with. 40% of Americans have it at any given time.
Oh, I got it last night.
About that.
So,
yeah, we're super excited about it.
Well, that's pretty good. Now, you sent me a box with 30 envelopes in it. Now, is that a 30-day supply?
Yeah, one a day, and typically most people, they tear off the corner, like I said, sip it out in the morning. My wife has it right next to her toothbrush. She brushes her teeth, and that's how she doesn't forget.
What's it taste like?
It's slightly sweet. It has a little bit of a tang to it, but not very much. And that's why we call it a nectar, because it reminds a lot of people of that sort of flower nectar that, you get those flowers and suck the nectar out. It's reminiscent of that.
Okay. All right. Now, how long before I start seeing or feeling a difference?
That'll probably be individual based on probably several factors. It could be as quickly as a couple of weeks, but we recommend giving it the month, and I'd love to hear back and find out how it did for you.
All right. I got your phone number, and I will actually get back with you on that. We probably, if things work out, I'll probably bring you back on the show and tell everybody this is good stuff. How do people get a hold of it? Get a hold of the product?
It's available online at our website, ISO or ISOThrive.com, and also at Amazon. So people who shop there a lot, which is pretty much everybody, I guess, these days, can also order it through there.
Yeah, we actually bake our own breads, and we get all of our grains because we mill our grain from scratch. We get it on Amazon.
Fantastic.
It's really something. Is there any dietary restrictions on, coupled with this product that if I'm on this product, I should stay away from?
No, there's nothing that's indicated to stay away from, or even any particular health condition, that people might have. So far we've seen, it's effective no matter what people are doing in terms of their, various different, gut health issues.
Okay. All right. That sounds really good. Let's see. Another question is, you consider yourselves a microfood. And did we go through that?
Well, I wanted to explain a little bit more about microfood in general, because there's a lot of people are familiar that prebiotic or food for the bacteria in your gut you can get out of whole foods, right? Plant-based products, whole grains and all that sort of thing, and a lot of tubers, and that's entirely true. But what we've been learning, and it's a combination of our own research, but also work that we do with one of our collaborators, Eric Martens from the University of Michigan and others, where there's been a lot of study looking at the genetic makeup as well as empirical data to prove it, that not all microfood feeds every bacterium, right? They all, like I said before, they all have their own preferences. Some are more finicky, some are a little more omnivorous, and you have to make sure that all of the types of microfood are in your diet. Now, the interesting thing is that even if you eat a really great plant-based diet, you'll be missing a part of the story. And what's interesting is that historically, over the last 10,000 years, there's another type that mostly has gone missing in the Western diet. You guys probably have some of this in your diet today, but it's made by bacteria during the natural preservation and for pickling and food preservation. And also in old school sourdough bread, if you've got the right starter and you let it go for 18, 24 hours, you'll get some of the same material produced in the bread.
I understand.
So
yeah,
you guys,
sourdough bread is very good for you, actually.
Yeah, and there's for a wide variety of reasons, but one of them is that in the naturally made fermentation process, the old school way, but not for 4 to 6, 8 hours, it's like 18 to 24 hours, you'll get this. And it's been well documented historically that this, what we make used to be in the food people would eat two 2 pounds of bread a day, and they'd be getting what you get in one of those packets every day. And so, but it's gone missing for most people, and it's hard for people to find it is really the problem. Because we'd always advocate eat right, make your diet be the source of your cure, but that's difficult for most people.
Yeah.
Okay. It looked like we had a phone call come in, but it was dropped. So unfortunately, Joe, if you had a question for Jack, give me a call back, and we'll see if we can get you on the air. All right, so we got that, and why don't you explain to us what the difference between a prebiotic and a probiotic is?
Yeah, so probiotics, come in sort of two basic forms. There's the food type, and often, we think of kefir, yogurt, things of that sort, lassi, all the, milk-based fermented, drinks and food products. And then there's also, the shelves and shelves of supplements that come in capsules. There's been a lot of study, and the market has grown to be like $60 billion a year globally. Right. It's enormous. And yet, when you look at the scientific evidence, there's very little in the way of evidence that when you take a supplement, especially the capsule form, that they colonize and add any new bacteria, and even though that's how they're marketed. Now, that doesn't mean they don't provide a benefit, because a lot of people do benefit from it. But we think it's important to understand, okay, what are they really doing for us, and why would you choose one to take it? And there's still a lot of science left to understand that, but the market's huge.
It's not really building a base. It's just kind of going through, you doing its thing, and then leaves.
Yeah, and what we found evidence of is that when you take certain probiotics, if they actually survive your upper digestive system, all the acid and the enzymes in your small intestine, which is a pretty big challenge. What it appears is that they act like invaders, if you will, and that the indigenous bacteria population looks at them as invaders and actually goes on the attack and kills them. So they're the exact opposite of what they're marketed for. However, one of the benefits of that is that, so for example, some of the bacteria that feed off of ISOThrive are, kind of some of your best bouncers. They kill off things like Salmonella and E. coli and Campylobacter, stuff you don't want. And so at the same time as they're wiping out this probiotic invader, they're also cleaning house. And that we think is a much more plausible scientific explanation than the replenishment story, because there's scientific evidence for what I just described and very little for how they're marketed. But it's very interesting.
You know what I'm going to do, which I don't ever do, is I am going to go on your product. I'm getting my calendar out right now. It'll be the 30th of April. I'd like to invite you.
Right.
I'd like to invite you back on the show for a little update. Why don't you call in if you want at 1:25 on the 30th of April, and I'll bring you on for a small segment to give you an update, and we'll go from there. How's that?
That sounds fantastic. I couldn't be more thrilled.
You're a first. I don't do this, but I will do this because you rang a bell with me with the acid reflux. So
love it.
That hurts like hell, and I got it last night again. So give me a call on the 30th. I'll put it down on my schedule.
And you've got enough.
And I've got enough. If you guys want to send me another box, I'd appreciate that. And we'll go from there. All right.
Absolutely. Happy to do it. And excellent.
All right, young man. The company is named ISOThrive, and you can find them on Amazon or on ISOthrives.com. Is that correct?
It's ISOThrive without the S. So ISOTHRIVE.
Okay. And that's the website. Do you also have a blog, like where a lot of people are talking to each other about the product and things like that?
People have been leaving positive comments at Amazon. We don't have a public blog at our site, but there are people who've been talking about it. If you search for us, people, we got on the radar screen, and so many people have been having such positive results. I mean, I got to say, one of the best things about bringing this product to market I'm not an MD by training, but more science and engineering originally. So I've never really touched people's lives in such a direct way. But every day, people write in or they post somewhere that I had this problem. I was suffering with IBS, or I had some Crohn's or colitis, even in many cases.
Wow.
Okay.
And or I was dragging. I just my energy level was going down, and suddenly people come back to life again, and they say, "You've given me my life back," and I cannot tell you what a reward that is.
Wow.
For just doing something I love doing.
Jack, we are out of show, so I appreciate you being on. We will talk to you in 30 days.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you much. Bye now.
Bye-bye.